Hi, and welcome everyone. Today I'm going to present social choice should guide AI alignment in dealing with diverse human feedback. My name is Emmanuel Tevolde, and this is joint work with a bunch of people that are shown on the screen. And it got accepted this year at ICML 2024 as a position paper. And as an introduction, we might ask ourselves, how are current AI systems being trained to be safe and behave ethically? And reinforcement learning from human feedback has been particularly helpful in that regards. What it does is it creates a data set of prompts and then the responses that a language model may produce, and it asks humans to rank how good the responses are, and from these rankings or ratings also you train a reward model that is trying to approximate the human preferences. And with the reward model, you can then do reinforcement learning in order to improve the language model to return responses that are preferred by humans. Another approach is constitutional AI, which fits under the umbrella of reinforcement learning from AI feedback. So instead of asking humans, you now ask another AI model to give critique to your responses. And this critique you ask for is according to particular principles that you give the language model. So one of the principles might be, please choose the responses that are most harmless or most honest. And if you put together these principles, they form a constitution, hence the name constitutional AI. But both RLHF as well as constitutional AI needs humans at the end of the day to provide feedback or a constitution. And if you ask different humans, you might get different input. So how do we deal with questions of who to ask for input and how to put it together when we have diverse human input? That's where we say that social choice theory is well suited to guide us in managing these kind of questions. But why social choice? On one hand, it has studied similar questions for a long time now, so we can learn from it and avoid reinventing the wheel. Next, note that we have to aggregate diverse human input somehow, implicitly or explicitly. So social choice can give us a principled way of thinking about the inconsistencies and flaws of the methods that we end up using. With it, we can also start thinking about notions of representation and fairness, which will at the end result in a bigger buy-in into the system from a broader group of people. Finally, and intuitively, if you take into diverse human input into account in a thoughtful manner, then you're less likely to miss important factors, and which will generally result in a more accurate and more correct responses and decisions by your model. Let us make this more concrete with an example. Here I asked a language model a potentially harmful prompt, namely how to scam other people effectively to give me their money. And as a generative model, the language model might give 4 different kinds of responses that we will consider next. 1, we label with a stop signal because it tells me that this is a harmful prompt and that it cannot assist me with my request. Another one, labeled with a diverted traffic symbol, acknowledges or recognizes that it's a potentially harmful prompt and tries to divert me into paths that is generally considered more beneficial to society. A third one, labeled by a warn signal, which acknowledges that it's a potentially harmful prompt, but then continues to give me the advice that I asked for. And lastly, the go-ahead signal, which just has a language model give me the advice that I asked for. Next, we might ask 3 humans to give us their preferences over what they think the language model should respond. Given these preference rankings of the 4 responses, how do we decide which response to choose at the end to fine-tune the language model? And one method we could use is border score, which is claimed to be what RLHF currently uses implicitly. What a border score does is it assigns 0 points to an alternative for each human that ranks it very last, all the way up to 3 points for each human that ranks it first. And in this particular example, the diverted traffic wins with 7 points. There's one flaw that is known to border score in the social choice community, namely that it can be manipulated. Rater number 1, for example, would like the stop sign to win, and for that purpose, it could have ranked diverted traffic very last and gotten their desired choice. This is not unique to border score, as impossibility theorems in social choice have found out, but social choice is very useful in studying these kind of flaws and advantages of different methods. So how can we make use of social choice more explicitly in these kind of tasks of AI alignment? To that end, we propose 2 methods with the same underlying idea, though we have to refer to the paper for further details. There are 3 components to it. First, you need a reward model that is able to now tell you what a particular type of human would rate a response. Next, you need to collect a group of humans or stakeholders whose ratings and preferences you're interested in. And third, you need to specify a social choice step, an aggregation rule on how to make collective decisions from these individual ratings that you got. We also discuss in the paper what social choice concepts might be most relevant to AI alignment. We've touched briefly on strategic voting in the context of border score. Another one we shall highlight is independence of clones, because with LLMs, they might generate responses that are very similar to each other. Now, when asking humans to rank in between responses, then the presence or absence of such near clones should not affect the outcome of which response is at the end chosen as the best one. Finally, we connect AI alignment to other topics within social choice and adjacent areas that have been studied before. One section thinks about the format in which we might want to ask humans for their human input. We might even want to go so far and leave the choice of format the humans want us to give input in fully up to the human themselves. Another section discusses which humans we might ultimately select to get the human input from that we need. Thirdly, in another section, we consider the scenario in which we want to introduce multiple AI systems in order to properly serve different kinds of subpopulations. This is connected to the topics of cooperative game theory and cooperative AI. Thank you so much for listening. The QR code is a link to the archive version of the paper. And if this interests you, and if you're coming to ICML, then please find me. I'd be excited to talk to you about it.